All right, we good to go?
Yeah.
Okay. Yep, it's exactly my screen. Perfect. So today we'll be demoing, spinning up a local rollup, Arbitrum rollup, on a local Ethereum L1, and then connecting that via IBC to our running testnet. So first step, of course, is to run the rollup in the L1. So this is a script from Arbitrum that spins up the full local configuration with the L1 and the L2, does all the contract deploying, all the fancy stuff. We have forked it to, instead of using Prism as the consensus client, we now use Lodestar, which is what we require to track the consensus of the L1. The L1 consensus on Ethereum is the beacon chain, and they provide in the APIs certain endpoints that allow us to do light client updates on a counterparty of that chain. So Lodestar is actually the only chain, the only implementation that fully supports this, so we had to stop using Prism in this, unfortunately, and fork it to use Lodestar, which was fine. You can see here, it's spinning up all the different nodes. You can see the sequencers, the consensus chain, all that. And then spinning up the L2 here. And then it has to deploy a whole bunch of contracts, so this will take a while. Alongside this, we'll also be running our relayer, Voyager. You can see here the logs look very scary, but it's actually not that bad. This is connected again to our running testnet. So 111.55111, this is the chain ID for Sepolia. The local configuration I have does not have Sepolia configured in it, so it will spit out all these logs every time it sees an event that it doesn't know the counterparty chain for. So just pretend those logs aren't there. No way to turn them off right yet. But if we go back here, we can see still deploying all the contracts. This is the entire Arbitrum L2 stack, and it will spin up everything for you, and then we'll be able to connect to it. This is we randomized the L1 and L2 chain IDs. The idea is that eventually people can use this as a local demo to connect either to a local or a remote running testnet for Union to demonstrate how easy Union makes it to connect to to connect IBC between us and the counterparty. So wait till this is up. This is the part that takes the longest. So.
The contracts that you're deploying, that's the Arbitrum?
This is the Arbitrum stuff, yeah. So they have the sequencer inbox, and the inbox, that's for like the L1, L2 messaging. A bunch of this stuff is for the fraud proofs, the challenges, and a lot of this, I admit, I don't actually know what it does. I just know it's fancy. Just a few more here. And then once this spins up, we'll be running block scout as well for the L2, so we can connect. We'll have a front end, the only front end in this entire demo. We'll have shortly here. Almost done. It gets more interesting than this.
So you're deploying an L3?
No, we're not doing an L3 stack. That is also possible with this configuration.
Yeah.
What we're doing is more. It's if you wanted to use the Arbitrum L2 stack as your own L2, like use it in the same way you would use the OP framework, and then use that to then settle on an L1. And that L1 you settle on could be Ethereum, you could settle on Berachain if you wanted to, anything EVM compatible. Of course, you could then also settle with the Arbitrum stack on Arbitrum directly via their L3 configuration. But this is a lot simpler to do in a local demo because I don't have to spin up 3 layers of chains. But it would be possible to do so, to connect to an Arbitrum L3. All right, so the contracts have been deployed. Step 1 here, so I have to take this address and paste it. Where is the L1? This is the Voyager config file. There will be a few values in here that I have to adjust as the demonstration goes on. The first one here is the L1 contract address. This is because the Arbitrum light client is a conditional client in that we have to first create a client on Union tracking the L1 that tracks the finality of the L1, and then the Arbitrum client will track the finality of that light client, and then it'll update its state when we provide a light client update to Arbitrum. So it's like a two-step process. So something we'll be doing here shortly is creating a client on the L1, of the L1 on Union. So coming up shortly. Yeah, here's Block Scout.
So you need an L1 light client as well?
Pardon?
That's what you said. So you need an L1 light client as well, not the Arbitrum. So why do you need the L1 light client as well?
Because the Arbitrum chain itself, the finality of Arbitrum is defined by the finality of the L1. So we couldn't just directly do Arbitrum as track the finality of Arbitrum, because as everybody's probably aware, they have the 1 week finality window. They periodically settle on the L1, as do all rollups. So we need to track both the finality of the Arbitrum chain itself and then the finality of the chain it's settling on. So if we were to do an L3 stack, we would track the finality of the L3 and then the L3 on the L2, and then finally the L2 on the L1. Multiple levels of connection.
I just ask like a dumb non-technical question. Okay, maybe this is obvious to other people, but not for me. So is it novel to be settling on another EVM chain, or is that just something that was already possible? Is that a main problem union, or is it just the difference in execution environments?
That's how all the EVM rollups work, whether there's EK rollup or optimistic rollup. They have their functionality to connect or to settle their chain state somehow on the L1.
Right.
Because the L2s exist to make interacting with the chain cheaper.
But then you mentioned but I can settle on Barra, which is...
You could also settle on Barra, because Barra chain is an Ethereum chain. You can interact with it the same way. The Barra chain versus Ethereum is only different in the consensus mechanism. So Barra chain uses BeaconKit, their custom engine API implementation, whereas Ethereum L1, what everybody's familiar with, uses the Beacon chain.
Yeah, okay, you just confused me.
Yeah, no worries. So this is the Block Scout tracking the Arbitrum L2. You can see here, it only produces blocks when there's transactions on the chain. So we're not getting spammed with blocks like you would see on Arbitrum mainnet, which is very nice for my computer. You can see here, this would have been one of the deployments we just saw would have been in some of these transactions. Then after all that, they do a batch posting report. That's how they settle on they do a transaction on the L1, and then there's a response back that says, yep, we settled on the L1, here's the information on that. So there's a two-way transfer of state between the two chains. Now that this is up, we need to deploy where was it? We need to deploy the IBC contracts. So we have a script here, a Docker file that you can run, and it will deploy our entire IBC stack on whatever L1, L2, L3 EVM-based chain you want to connect to. And this runs very fast on Arbitrum, which is very nice. Then here we have, these are all the addresses. So one thing we do, which is actually Arbitrum does the same thing, is we use a deployer or a proxy, however you want to call it, such that the addresses are deterministic on the chain you deploy it to. So these are the same addresses. If I were to use the same private key with the same nonce, it would be the exact same addresses on any EVM chain, assuming they do the same address calculation. So IBC handler, all of these should be deterministic. Yep, all good. So now with that, we need to create the L1 client. Let's see here, which is this message. So we have pre-deployed a two-union testnet, the Wasm Lite client that will then track Ethereum. You can see it says minimal here somewhere. The Ethereum defines two main chain specs, which define the different values in the chain. Minimal is good for local configuration, so that's what we're using. But if you're tracking something like Sepolia, it will be mainnet. So I need to run.
And in the message, you say replace the chain ID with a...
Oh yeah, thank you.
So is the chain ID different for every chain? Or?
Yes, so the chain ID, one assumption we have in the relay is that the chain ID uniquely associates chain state. So to make sure that there's no issues with chain IDs mapping to different chain states as you bring up and down local ephemeral testnets, we randomize the chain ID on startup such that they're always different. Well, it's 4 billion different IDs. So first thing I have to do is flush the database. All right, and then bring up the relayer. There we go. Yep, I have it set to only emit anything worn or higher, and just logs, the event logs, so that we don't get massive spammed logs. There's quite a lot. So then the next thing we'll do, actually before we create the client, is fetch blocks on, where is that? Fetch blocks on union. Yeah, right here. It's a bit cumbersome right now, but it's nice to see that this is Voyager works based off of message-based queue. So this JSON here defines exactly the exact action that Voyager will take. And this here says to fetch blocks from this height, and then this message will produce another message that fetches blocks at this height, and then a message that says fetch blocks at that height +1. So it sort of unfolds its own state. Now we should have here soon, we'll see some events come up. Yeah, so these are events from the actual running testnet right now, people doing transactions, send packets. Then you can see, because we don't know, we don't have the chain configured, it just doesn't do anything. It dumps an error and doesn't do anything, which is fine. And then we got, I need to update the chain ID one more spot. Let's see if we can see them here. So this is our Datadog tracking the actual remote running Voyager on testnet. So we should hopefully see the create client in here shortly, assuming I did everything correctly. Let's see. Yep, there we go. So the new client ID tracking on Union testnet, tracking my local running Ethereum L1 is 08wasm58. So now we need to, because the L2 tracks the L1 via the conditional client, it needs to know which client to track the state from. So here, I tested this earlier, you can see it's 56, now it's 58. And then we'll need to restart Voyager such that it has that config in it. Again, it's a bit cumbersome. This will become more user-friendly down the line, but creating clients is not something that happens quite frequently, so it's fine.
So whenever I deploy a new protocol, do I have to?
If you have an existing client, you can build multiple chains on top of that, multiple connections on top of that client, but if you have multiple chains, you will need multiple clients.
So only one chain?
Yes, exactly. Let's see. Yes, that's going. And now, because we know how to track finality in Arbitrum, we can safely fetch blocks on Arbitrum. Let's go back. Arbitrum. Oh yes, one other thing we need to do. L2s are complicated, people. So something we need to do as well, oh no, not this message, is update the L1 client. So this message here, I need to update the client ID to 58 as well. This message here defines the update for the L1 client that we just created. So this will every 10 seconds, so it's very fast for local testing. It will update the on union testnet running remotely, update the state it tracks of our locally running L1. So that's what this should do. And then we'll go back to the logs here. And then we'll update this. It should come through in a minute or two. But while we're waiting for that, we can take a quick look at this stuff. Just to do an explainer of this. So this inner message here is what actually does the client update. This will fetch all the required state. It will aggregate it all and how it's needed, and then create a transaction that will then be sent out to the chain. We wrap this in a retry. Sometimes things break. It's testnet. We're still developing things. So a lot of the errors that we found if you just try again once or twice, it goes through. So for the sake of the demo, to be safe, wrap it in a retry. Therefore, nothing will explode on us. For like a production mainnet environment, you'd of course want to have a lot more logging around this. Wrapping things in a retry is still sane, I think, but you want to just like, if an update fails on a production mainnet client, you probably want to be notified of that. So you can hook into this as well. And then this repeat message will, the outer message here, it will just repeat all of this every time, so we can do an update every 10 seconds. And let's go see if the client's been created yet. Unless an error happened. Or been updated? Wait, am I on the right? Update client. Oh, that's wasn't 39. Oh, it wasn't 39 is our client tracking Sequoia. And that's the one from earlier. So it has not come through yet, indeed. Which is very strange. Let's see. So this is the Postgres database that Voyager uses internally to track all of its state, such that if Voyager does crash, it doesn't lose anything. Every message is handled in a Postgres transaction, making everything fully transactional, no states ever lost. And the nice thing is we can check if anything's failed. That makes sense, because there was other stuff in there. Item from ID. I'm just checking to see if the update failed, because if it did, it will be in here with a message. Order. Ooh, shit. No, it looks unrelated, like it's not been in here. Yeah, so I don't think it failed, which is good, but I'm very confused. That's I tried this 5 minutes ago and it worked perfectly. It's okay, we can figure it out. Tracking properly. 1058, I suppose.
So you're creating the L1 client?
The L1 client is created. I'm trying to post updates to that L1 client on unit testnet. So I'm wondering, let's search the database for WASM58. Seems it may have been dumped. It is 58, right? Yeah. Well, that's interesting. So now we get to go into debug mode. This here shows we have one item in the queue right now. If we go select from optimize, this is going to be the block fetching message, I believe. Yes, it is.
There was nail on the logs.
Yeah.
Email address which isn't correct.
Invalid due to missing value. I may have forgotten to update a value. Let's go back and look. So it's this value it's missing. Let's go back. So the reason we have to update this value is the L1 client is designed to track the IBC state, but currently we're not uploading the IBC contracts to the L1 because we're not doing any IBC on the L1. So what we need to do here is provide a contract that does exist on the L1. I think this contract does not exist on the L1, hence we cannot prove against it. We just need to do an account proof that that account does exist in the state. What happens then if it is the IBC handler address is it will be used in the state proof verification because it's trusted in the local client state in the light client, and then you verify a slot in there for the IBC commitment proof. But since we're not doing that, we don't need to do all that IBC stuff for the L1. This field will become optional down the line once we do it that. So let's see here. Let's go up. We just need a address on the L1. Actually, we can use this one because this address exists on the L1. So we'll have to create the client again, which is fine. Very quick. Yes. Oh, I need to also restart. Normally these errors would be much more prominent. You typically don't have every third log being an error log. All right, and that's up. So let's see. Create client. Should go through shortly. All right. This is, yeah, 08 wasn't 59. Nice. I think 59, I believe, will be the L2 client that we maybe, wait, unless the thing, oh, the bar at the right there lagged. That's what I was looking at. So 08 wasn't 59 is our new L1 client. Should hopefully be tracking all the correct state. 58, 59. And then this also needs to be updated to 59. This needs to be 59. So watch the logs, make sure there's no IBC errors. Back to the logs. Yeah, there we go. Perfect. So this is a successful update of our local running L1 on Union testnet. This will happen every 10 to 30 seconds now. Thankfully, I have lots of gas token, so we should be good. Now what we need to do is restart Voyager again, now that I have the new config. And then fetch blocks on Arbitrum. I think I can just copy this one. There we go. So what this command does is it gives you the JSON at the latest height. So you fetch from the latest current state, and then as the state progresses, the chain progresses, it will, again, unfold those blocks. There we go. Should be coming through now. Now what we need to do is create the connection, the client's connection and channel on between Union testnet and Arbitrum DevNet. So that's what this big message does here. Oh, no, I just paste this one. And there is an error here, actually. Thought I caught that one. If we look, just want to sanity check myself here. Yes, glad I did that. So the UCS 01 ID is this, and I need to lowercase that. And then this client checksum here is the pre-deployed Arbitrum Lite client on Union testnet. So this is what will be tracking the actual state of our Arbitrum DevNet through the L1 client we provided in the config, which is the WASM 59. And then this will give us a very large JSON message. You can see all the internal queue. There we go. Just a sanity check. The L2 chain is running on this. You can see this chain ID is the same. So very nice. Now we should see some logs on this one. Yeah, create client wasn't 59. We should see some client creation going through. We should see an 08 WASM 60 and a comment BLS-0. Comment BLS-0 will be the one on Arbitrum. Oh, actually, we won't see comment BLS in here because that's running locally. And the Voyager running on testnet will not be aware of that client at all. that's our client. And this message here, this big, huge JSON message, will create the clients. Once they're created, it will start posting updates for them, I believe at a 10-second interval. It will then, once that's done, initiate the connection handshake opening I believe on Union, and then once that connection is opened, it will do the channel handshake initiation. So this is mostly intended for DevNet, stuff like this, where you know you're the only person doing these kind of interactions. Otherwise, you get issues with sequences and mismatch, and it's a pain. If you're doing this on a production, with lots of activity on it, you would want to do all of these steps individually such that you have full control. That's, so 08 WASM 60 is the Arbitrum Lite client that exists on the Union testnet tracking our local Arbitrum L2. So 59 tracks the L1, 60 tracks the L2, and 60 uses 59 to get finalized, to get the finalization of its own chain. And again, if anything doesn't make any sense, feel free to ask any questions. I deal with this stuff day in, day out in my sleep, so.
So the transaction we can see there are like on the Union testnet?
This is Union testnet, yes.
So we can probably see the transaction?
Yeah, we can go to this. We can see the client creation transaction. When it loads. Create client. Oof. The Wi-Fi. Also, my poor node just getting wrecked by multiple relayers. So you can see here, it was a message create client, and then yeah, just your typical create client event here that shows the consensus height it tracks, which 0-272 is the consensus height was updated to, and then because it's tracking the local Arbitrum DevNet, but the finalized height of the L2 is defined as the finalized height of the L1. So you have to go up a level to the L1 and then up one more level to the consensus chain, which is the beacon chain in this case. Lots of indirection, but it's how you track the finality. And then yeah, that's done. So we should see, hopefully, something in here. While we wait for this to go through, might take a minute. The reason the L2 state is defined as the settlement of the L2 on the L1 once that's finalized is IBC requires that all updates are fully finalized. You can't do an update to height 10, that reorgs, do an update back to height 7, and then go forward again. If that happens, the client freezes. So like IBC requires, again, that it is fully finalized. So we have to be very careful to track state that is like never going to be reorged, which in the case of an optimistic rollup like Arbitrum becomes an issue with off-ramping. So if you want to leave Arbitrum, you need to wait a full week for that full finality window. This obviously is not great if you want to like send your assets out, do a transfer out. Very quick to on-ramp onto Arbitrum or Optimism or Base. We do have solutions in the works for this, but potentially an intents-based API where a middleman market maker could say, I see user wants to transfer assets from Arbitrum to Union or off to whatever. The protocol would then have an additional entry point where a third party could say, I'm going to do this transfer, front run this packet for you, define it, say I want to send 100 USDC. The market maker has that asset over that bridge, like that same wrapped asset already on the other end. They do the transfer for you, submit the packet. When the packet lands finally after a week, the market maker would receive a small fee assuming they were honest and they actually submitted the correct packet. And then the user doesn't make any difference with the user. All they see is that their transfer happened a lot faster than a week. The worst case scenario here is no market maker picks it up and it takes a full week. If you're not putting enough fee, same idea is you don't have enough gas on your transaction, it's never going to get out of the mempool. No one's going to want to run your transaction. Similar idea here. Oh, this looks new. All right, nice. The open init. The difference is that for the end user, they still have the full security guarantees of the underlying connection. So if that underlying connection tracks full Arbitrum finality the full week, plus the full finalized epoch on Ethereum, that there's no way they're going to lose any assets. The worst case is or I guess best case for the user here, is a market maker picks up the packet, submits it, they do the front run, but they submit the incorrect packet, but they still do the transfer. The user just ends up with double their funds, because they get both that when the packet actually lands and the mistake by the market maker, which is obviously something that they would have to take that risk upon themselves, and that's what the fee is for. Ooh. Trying to submit a transaction. So that's our intended API down the line, which will make dealing with optimistic rollups in chains with very long finality much, much nicer. So you can apply the same thing to Ethereum mainnet, where normal fully finalized block takes 12 plus minutes. Obviously, if you want to do a fast swap or a trade or something, you don't want to deal with like a 12-minute and then 12-minute back. Like a half hour to do a swap is not great. So this could be integrated again with the same API concept that would allow, again, anybody to trustlessly, permissionlessly interact with this intent-based system. So here you can see the connection open init on Union. We will soon see an open try locally, but it won't show up in the logs because the open try happens on the counterparty chain. So might be able to find it in the logs themselves. You can see here, 08 WASM 59. Kind of strange, no WASM, oh, because I didn't put it here, of course. There you go. So you can see that the L2 client here updates after the L1 client. So, and it updates, you can see, to the same height. So the L1 client updates to whatever heights it does, and then the L2 client can only update to those like steps of heights. So if you wanted to update your L2 client for some reason to a very specific height that the L1 client has not updated to yet, you would have to provide both an update to the L1 client to that specific height, because then with that you can get the consensus state of the L1 from that client through to your L2. So these are going, very nice. Let's see if we can find the open try message. Oops, no, that's fine. I feel like that one's way too old. Yeah, I think probably should have cleared my terminal history before. Let's see. But there should be. Yes, this is the open init here. Oh wait, WASM 60. Nice. So this will take a while to go through. The handshakes, it's a four-way handshake. For anybody not familiar with IBC, it's a four-way from A to B. You do init, try, ack, confirm. This handshake does for the connection handshake specifically, it does the negotiation of the different client states. So it ensures that A does indeed track the client state of B, and B does indeed track the client state of A. And they negotiate a few parameters to the connection, which are not important for this demo, but it enables, you could think of it as the security layer underlying the actual app layer, which is the channel. So you define your you define the security guarantees you want in the semantics of the connection with the connection handshake, which yeah, is separate from the apps. If that makes sense. It's hard to explain, I think, but so we should see. And then due to the local union EVM L1 running on my computer right now, still has somewhat long finality for the epoch. I think it's about 3 to 4 minutes for that. So every time we do a message, we need to wait for the L1 to finalize, update the L1, update the like the L1 client, update the L2 client tracking the L1, because then we can get the events from the L2 that are the handshake events here. So it does take a little bit long to get through, but the updates are going through nicely, which is good. And it appears I am attempting to send a transaction. That's an update. Let's see here. I think it should be through now.
So we also need to update the client on Arbitrum?
Yes, so let's see if we can find that in the logs here.
Does one trigger the other, or they all just go every 10 seconds?
Pardon?
Does one like update trigger the other
No,
one,
they're
or do they
completely
just all go every 10 seconds?
The updates from A to B and B to A are completely independent. At this stage, the chains don't know about each other. They don't know that they know about each other. That's what the connection defines, is that the chain A and B can talk to each other, they can submit messages, like they know how to interact. But they don't, like you can just have chain A updating on chain B without having the other way, which is actually what we're doing for the L1 client. So again, typically, as I said before, with that IBC handler address, you would have a two-way connection between Union and Ethereum, and vice versa. But in this case, we don't need that, so you can indeed just have a one-way update of a light client on a chain tracking the state of another chain. So yes, Comet BLS0 is being updated as well. Or that's the create. Is the update going through? Oh yeah, update. Interesting that they came through in reverse order. Let's see here. What the heck? Init. That's very strange. This is admittedly somewhat difficult to debug without proper logs. We typically, when running on testnet, we see every log here. Like if we go to, those errors are fine. If we go to here, if I can just clear this, you can see we have tons and tons of logs that we can filter on, but half of the logs are not ingested by the relay are running that this is tracking, so we are flying a little bit blind.
Do you have a way to check if the update went through?
That's what I'm looking for right now. Okay. Running out of time? Okay. How much longer?
We got 6 minutes.
I'll write it up. So. So there was an update that went through. I think the finality, maybe my computer is a little overloaded running all of this locally. So I think the finality is perhaps taking a long time. But it does work. prompt. I guess to do one final thing here, we can just take a look at the regular logs. As you can see, we do successfully handle thousands of packet messages an hour. This is running locally, running on testnet, so it does all work. You will have Arbitrum live soon on testnet, so maybe there was a bug you gotta find. We'll get that all figured out, and then you'll be able to test this yourself on the Arbitrum testnet, which thankfully is only 1 hour window for testing for fraud proof, so it's a lot faster than all right.